morning. We are going to be doing something very special today. We are going to be getting into the Star Wars universe and no way! I'm here with the Mandalorian, aka Alex. I'm here with Alex. Hey Alex.
How's it going?
And Alex is a member of a club, something in a galaxy far, far away, something.
So I'm actually an official member of two Mandalorian costume organizations, the Mandalorian Wolfpack and the Mandalorian Protectors.
And these groups are like the reason that you make costumes, or?
So the reason why I made costumes to begin with is I've just been a fan of Star Wars ever since a little kid, Mandalorian stuff specifically. So once I found out there was like-minded people out there who also love Mandalorian stuff, I was like, sign me up. So this one here is actually my first approved suit by the Protectors and the Wolfpack, and I am approved by the Wolfpack now, and I'm trying to get this guy approved by the Protectors.
And I totally get what you're saying because I grew up on Star Wars, I love Star Wars, but I think even if you did not grow up on Star Wars, you may enjoy this video because what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be walking through building the Mandalorian costume from, well, literally the ground up. So let's get started on that. So let me go back a little bit. About 3 months ago, Alex and I got together and we started discussing the idea of, you know what, could we build a really cool costume that would just look awesome? And Alex, of course, has a lot of experience in these sort of things, and he was like, oh, I can totally do it. And I was like, hey, let's do it. So what we're gonna do is go through his process of what he did to make this costume, and we're really gonna take a piece at a time, so fasten your seatbelts because we're in for the long ride. But before we go too far, let's have one more look at that costume real quick. Why can't you take your helmet off, Din?
Cause I've got helmet hair.
So let's start at the very beginning. Very best place to start. Where would we start? Where? Sorry about that. Where would we start? Let's start from the ground up. What is the base costume? First thing you put on, what did we start with?
So the first thing that we put on is the pants. Just like a firefighter, you start with the pants and then the boots.
Let's have a look at those.
I had to take in all of the fabric for these pants because they were pretty tremendous on me when they began. So I'm using these suspenders to keep everything out.
What? Where did you get these pants? Where do these even come from?
So I actually sourced these from a local guy in town.
Okay.
He wanted to do Din Djarin for a little bit. He wore it for a Halloween, and his interest just kind of shifted. He wanted to go a different direction. So I seized the opportunity, took these. He actually had the season 1 stuff, like the episode 1 and 2. So I ended up dyeing this with a very specific fabric dye that I actually had to mix myself, and we will see that right here. I actually got that recipe for it on a Facebook group totally devoted to building these Din Djarin costumes. Moving on with the color of everything, I mean, just taking a look at this. For what I found, the stitching on this is amazing. All of the stitching and detail work is incredible on this suit. That's why I wanted to use it, and I took the time to dye it rather than buying something else on Etsy or something like that.
It looks fantastic in person. I don't know if you can tell from a distance, but we'll get a close-up on that. It looks amazing.
Right. So moving on with that, so we have this flight suit. I had to do all the tailoring and stuff. We have the suspenders. Now we're getting to the actual armor. I did 3D printing for the majority of the armor on this suit. And you can see some of the 3D printing, like for this calf piece in this clip. Some of these pieces are actually not 3D printed. This one here, this knee piece, actually was hand built by me. Now this is actually not 3D printed plastic. This is actually Sintra, and I'm going to explain in this clip here. What is Sintra? Well, I'll show you. Sintra is actually a PVC expanded sign material. Why I love it so much is you can heat it and bend it in all these intricate shapes and custom fit it to your body. The reason why I chose to do this knee piece in Sintra rather than 3D print is I wasn't exactly sure of the size of my leg in comparison to the files, so I was actually able to custom fit this to my leg so it would have the most comfort. Having the ability to have a little bit tougher material and just being able to make another part, say if one of these breaks, because knees do break, you end up bumping into things, especially when you're at cons and things like that. Having that ability to make another piece on the fly is really a benefit.
And that's really interesting. We mentioned that in one of the last videos where we talked about consider your purpose with your costume, and when you are at something like a con or even just running around on Halloween night, sometimes your costume pieces will either get bumped into or just start falling off or something, and you need something that's going to be a bit more durable. So having made the costume yourself, you're able to know what pieces are, you know, safe and what really aren't, how hard some of the pieces are. Like, how hard would you say these 3D printed pieces are?
Hard? I mean, it's able to take a hit. I mean, I wouldn't like throw it on the ground, but I've accidentally dropped like my gauntlets on concrete and they've survived.
Wow.
So it's tougher than you think, but don't try the limits. Things will break. So another reason why I chose to do natural materials, this is real leather.
Whoa.
And I actually learned a new skill on this kit. I actually learned how to sew ammo loops.
Really?
These are all hand sewn by me, and I will show you in this clip. A really cool experience. Fun fact, these actually are the same diameter as a 12-gauge shotgun shell, just saying.
Ah, they look fantastic. Looking at them up close, and again, we'll get a close-up on this, but they look absolutely fantastic.
I think that's enough with the pants. Let's move on to the flight suit.
Cool. This stitching matches the stitching on the pants.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Really cool pattern on this, and it's authentic to the original, which is a plus.
Yeah.
Especially going for approval in these gloves, they pay attention to these details, so you want to be legit. You have to look the part.
And I mean, you absolutely could just, you know, wear a jumpsuit or something under it all, but to have something this close, this is fantastic.
Oh, totally.
It's
like,
beautiful.
This is not my first suit. Like, the one behind me, I literally got khakis from Walmart and a dress shirt for my flight suit. And that's the beauty of doing the custom suits, is you can piece things together and have that authentic feel to it, but it's still your own. But trying to do the canon costumes where you're trying to be a specific character, you have to pay attention to little details. Like, for instance, the Mudhorn signet on the shoulder here. It has to be put in the right place. It has to have the right shade and tone, and everything has to be reflective. This whole Beskar paint job that I did on here, it was quite the process. Everything has to be mirror smooth. You have to be able to see yourself shaving in this stuff. And then you put the Beskar graphite powder on, and I will show you what that looks like in this coming clip. So this is graphite powder. This is kind of the secret to how I've been doing the Beskar look. So this is actually a 3D printed spearhead, and I've got this reasonably smooth so I can see my reflection. Go ahead and dab a little bit of this on, and a little bit does go a long way. Beskar. Once I'm satisfied with how shiny this thing looks, I'm going to put some clear coat on this to protect it from fingerprints and from just general damage in use. Very intensive process. This probably took most of my time, other than the actual sewing and taking in of the soft parts.
Well, it looks great though. It's definitely well worth your time. I can see that.
And then one thing that I had to do after my first event with this thing is I ended up redoing a bunch of it because I did not foresee people coming and touching me in this. So they think you're a superhero. So kids and even adults will come up and they will put fingers all over this. So I came out of there looking like a Mystery Incorporated poster with fingerprints everywhere. So I ended up having to put a clear coat on this. So now that you have some beautiful armor pieces, one of the most common questions I get asked is how do you actually attach it to your soft parts? Well, I am a huge believer in Velcro. Sometimes I'll actually supplement it with straps or like button shirt snaps, but why I love Velcro so much is you can always adjust your plates just a little bit. That way, if you're not quite happy with the placement, it's infinitely customizable, so long as you have space on your fabric for it. One of my favorite parts of this is the backplate. I actually had my wife and my nephew help me bend this around my back to be a custom fit. And if you'll hold this, please. The locks on here actually make it so I can throw, if I can find them, a jetpack on. And that thing is not coming off.
That is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and as you can see here, all the little straps and stuff, this is actually for the jetpack so I can adjust it while it's on me in case it starts sagging or pulling on the armor, flak vest, or whatever. That way everything looks nice and tight.
And then it's totally hidden when you're wearing the costume, so you can't even see that.
Yes, and actually what helps hide all the strappage and everything is this cape. So, to get all the blaster damage and all the marks and holes and stuff, I didn't actually take it out and shoot it. What I ended up doing was using a soldering iron to give that blaster burn mark. So I just looked at what a Din Djarin cape looked like and I just tried to replicate the damage as best as I could.
That is fantastic.
The gun belt / bandolier combo is probably one of the most difficult parts of this whole piece. There's just so many little pieces and parts on here. First, let me start with the ammo cylinders. Each one of these is actually resin printed with an SLA printer. Why I chose to do that is because it just is a higher finish quality. That way I didn't have to do so much smoothing and so much sanding and afterwork, because it just takes forever to sand and finish all these pieces. I'll show you a little bit of the process in this clip here. I wanted to show you guys what it was like to actually finish a 3D print. So now that we have everything printed, what do we do with it? Well, this is going to do a pretty good job of showing you the entire process of what happens. First, you take raw prints like this, then you sand them down to get rid of all the rough, nasty edges and stuff. Then you start filling them all the print lines with Mando filler putty. Then after that, we move on to filler primer, which gets rid of all the excess little dings and owies in the print. And then finally, you can have fun and actually start painting and end up with finished pieces like what's on the glove armor. So then, as you can see, I have more hand sewn on details, all these little ammo loops and fun little bits here. When this came to me, I actually didn't sew the belt, but I had to stain the belt to match the leather on his actual armor to make it look more authentic to the character. Because when it came, it kind of had that brand new plasticky look. So what I ended up doing is I actually stained it, and then I took this outside, took it to work, and got a bunch of sand and grit and just weathered it to make it look the most natural as I could possibly do. These bits here, like the little detonators, 3D printed. Not much to say about them. I mean, I don't have the disconnecting light up ones. I'm not that rich. We had to try and keep this on a budget. The blaster is 3D printed. And I did all the paint and weathering on this guy to make it look as authentic to the original as I could. And then all the little pouches and all the buckles, and this is a 3D printed buckle because the one that it came with wasn't up to snuff, so I had to make sure that one was authentic. And yeah, just a lot of work on this belt. All these hip armor pieces had to be weathered and look just right. Have your Besker butt protector here. And I looked online for a reference picture for what the Mandalorian's vibro blade actually looks like. So what we're going to be using today is something called liquid latex. Now this is really popular in the film and theater industry because it makes really accurate looking scars. I'm actually going to be using it here today as a masking agent. So if you notice in a lot of like heavy equipment and old machines and stuff, a lot of the edges of things are missing paint. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be masking off the edges of this knife to make it look like it's been heavily used and sitting in poor old Din Djarin's boot for years and years and days. And the more beaten up, the better in this case. So we're going to keep doing this here. And this is a pretty well-known trick, so it's not like I'm giving away secrets or anything. But here is one thing I like to do. Get it all ready. Give it some accurate spatter. Check that out. Now that this is dry, it's time to paint. Cool, we'll let that all dry and then we'll be back here in a few. Next, we have the gauntlets. These are iconic to the character, especially the whistling birds. So, in order to put these on, I installed piano hinges that come apart with this pin. Throw this guy on. It's a little tricky by yourself. Usually I have a friend helping me put these on, but I usually can do it by myself. Jiggle it in. And there we go. They're not going anywhere. This one I add a little bit of electronics in as well. Matt's favorite part of the costume, the gloves.
I don't know why I love these so much. I just think these are great. Tell us about these.
So these are actual leather gloves. I took these to work with me, to work on a backhoe actually, to get the weathering just right on it, looking like I'm working on a starship or whatnot. But yeah, this is actually a 3D printed hand plate, and I just have Velcro attached to it. That way it's not going anywhere, and I have all the dexterity I need to shake hands, do autographs, you know, collect those awesome cosplay checks that I don't get, so. And last but certainly not least, the helmet. So this is actually 3D printed by me as well. This was finished with the graphite powder. and let's take a look on the inside. So as you can see, I put some airsoft helmet padding in here. That way it fits my head and I'm able to turn my head so it's not just like wearing a bucket on your head. I have a balaclava here, if I can get the dang thing open. Yeah, basically a headscarf. That way it hides my neck when I'm actually wearing it so you don't see skin. And this is a welding shield glass cut to fit the inside of here, and I actually installed this with Velcro. That way if I have to take it out to replace it or clean it, it's not a huge issue. A lot of guys like to glue theirs in, but if there's a crack or something, then they're in there chunking out little pieces of plastic with a Dremel tool, and I do not want to do that. So now that you've seen the armor and kind of how it all works and is put together, do you have anything you're curious about?
I have 4 questions, which I'm sure everybody else out there has the same 4 questions. Number 1, how well can you see out of the helmet? I can't see a thing in this helmet.
I am actually able to see quite well out of the helmet. I'm able to go upstairs. I'm able to do laser tag if I absolutely wanted to. I mean, I can throw and catch things. I see perfectly out of the helmet. It's great visibility. It is a great design. Hearing sucks.
Really?
Very badly.
So you can see, but you can't hear.
Yeah, hearing in the thing is actually terrible. So there is holes in this thing, so you can actually hear a little bit, but when it gets hot, I like to install a computer fan in there. And once that thing is going, unless you are talking at me and I can see you through the visor, because I can see better than I can hear, I'm just going to walk around doing Din Djarin things, because I do not know that I'm on another planet, really.
Which is sad for all those fans who are like, hey, hey, hey.
So if you ever see me and you're trying to cry out, I'm not being a jerk, I just can't hear you because it's hot.
Okay, next question. If I or anybody else wanted to make this costume myself, what kind of budget are we looking at to make this?
So I actually kept tabs of what I was spending and where money was going on this.
Okay.
Since I am a 3D printer, I don't have to pay and source for those parts, which is nice. And that saved me probably most of the money. So for the printing and everything, for me, just for the filament, it cost a couple $100. Where it came down to it, the paint was the biggest expenditure. Finding paint and all of the different materials I needed to use. All in all, the whole project cost me around $650 to $700.
Okay.
So
wow.
It was under $1,000, which is what we were shooting for. But it is not. It's not just a drop in.
No, he's right. When we first got together, we were talking about $1,000 figure. So it is really interesting to hear that he ended up coming out below that. Now you did get lucky on a couple of these pieces, being able to get the base costume,
sourcing the flight suit
that out
was a big help.
That was, yeah, absolutely. And then of course you already had a 3D printer that not everybody has that.
Yes, but if you wanted to be realistic, you can get a 3D printer that would be able to print all or most of these pieces for around $300 to $400.
Mm-hmm.
So even with what we've figured out for what I spent on this, and me trying to figure things out, if I did it again, I probably could save money because a lot of what I ended up spending on was experimentation for the paint.
Sure.
Yeah, trying to find the proper clear coats and stuff like that. If I could do it again, I could probably even save more money.
Wow.
So, realistically, you could get a 3D printer. You could do this yourself for around $1,000, I think.
Cool.
Now, if you went to buy everything, or if you wanted to pay me or someone who was experienced to do this, you can easily expect $1,500 to $3,000.
Because you're paying for someone else's time as well.
Mm-hmm. Doing that Beskar is not fun. So if you have someone who can do a quality job of it, it's worth it.
Fantastic. Okay, next question.
Sure.
With all the different pieces, how long does it take you to put the whole costume on?
So to put the costume on, if I know where everything is and everything's all together, in between 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Wow, 10 to 15 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's you thoroughly knowing this. I mean, this didn't just come in the mail and you had to figure it out. That's you having hand worked on darn near every piece here. So
Well, in that time, I'm also checking to make sure things aren't broken. And I'm looking in a mirror, making sure that things look right. And
Sure.
it's not like I'm just throwing this all on. It takes time to put all the hinges and pins and things on correctly. So
Absolutely.
So you look good and so you don't break things.
okay, and then the last question that we all have for you is, can you please put it on again? It looks so cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this with us, sharing your experience and, you know, teaching us, really. I know I learned a lot from your clips and things like that. So hopefully you guys took notes, because this is the way.
This is the way.
Nice. Okay, you guys have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll put any links, if there are any links to put, down in the description. Don't forget to find us on Facebook. And again, thank you so much for watching. Bye.
I'm gonna redo that because that was so dumb.